I'm going to take that, and I want to make a record that he is then choosing to wear, I think, I don't know if it's paper or material mask. I'm sorry, sir? Cotton. Okay. So he's choosing to wear a cotton mask. Is that right?
That is right. I did provide him with a clear plastic face shield, and Mr. Ford indicated to me he was more comfortable and wanted to continue to wear the mask that he has on today.
That's correct, Mr. Ford?
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Furthermore, if any witness testifies and is uncomfortable removing their mask, I do have face shields and we'll proceed that way. But as we proceed, I'll rely on the state of Ohio if someone has those concerns. For example, our first witness today is not feeling well, and so in an abundance of caution, I have overruled the defense's objection and permitted the state to proceed with her testimony by video conferencing technology. Mr. Liprinzi, anything further? Anything further for the record?
Not on that issue.
All righty. On behalf of Mr. Ford, Mr. Gorman, Mr. Liprinzi.
Not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Liprinzi.
So, because of the fact that Mrs. Ewing was supposed to be here today, but you just mentioned she's not well, and one person she's going to be testifying by video. We don't have the ability at this point for her to identify the defendant. However, 18 months ago, or 16, whatever it was, months ago, last March, when we were trying this case, she did do an in-court identification of Mr. Ford. At the end of her testimony, I'm going to ask the court to take judicial notice that she had previously, on a prior occasion, identified Mr. Ford sitting here today as Stanley Ford that she referred to in her testimony.
Mr. Gorman.
And I guess I will ask her on a prior occasion during a hearing, did I ask you to identify Mr. Ford, and were you able to do that? And have her affirm that and then have the court.
I don't want to throw a wrinkle, but I do think there's a way for her to identify him, and that's if he, you'll see in the technology, when you're talking from that microphone, the court camera, it won't?
It comes from the camera on the computer, so it shows me.
Okay, and so my point is, at the approach, well, I guess not, because she needs to pick him out of the courtroom versus if we put him in front of the camera. So disregard what I was just thinking. Mr. Gorman.
I don't think we can agree to that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that I will take judicial notice of it. You can ask her the question and she can say yes. And again, I don't know that she's an eyewitness, so to speak.
She's not an eyewitness, but she's a witness that knows Mr. Ford, is going to testify about conversations she had with Mr. Ford. And so for us to make sure that the individual who's sitting in the courtroom is the one that she had those conversations with.
Okay. So go ahead, Mr. Gorman.
The solution, Your Honor, is
right.
to hold her testimony off until she feels better, bring her into this courtroom and allow us to cross-examine her in person like we had asked to be able to do. I mean, this trial is not near over.
And Judge, I believe that identifications are not hearsay. So, I mean, I just put Looney on when he testified and asked him, were you on a prior occasion able to witness, this witness testify? And did she identify Mr. Ford?
Well, that's in a suppression hearing. I don't know if you can do that in a...
No, she testified in the first trial.
No, what I'm saying is you're allowed to have detectives come in a suppression hearing and say, yeah, that witness identified this person in this photo array or whatever it might be, but he can't replace her testimony in the courtroom.
No, but he testifies to what he witnessed. And if he sat through the first trial and witnessed her point to Mr. Ford and say, yes, then not what she testified to, just that she pointed to him and identified him. He witnessed that. I don't believe that's hearsay.
Yeah, we can't agree that we object to it. So
okay.
If it happens, then we note our objection.
And just to be clear, we're not suggesting it's a special hearing, it's a suppression hearing. The rule of hearsay says that identification is not.
Even if I'm wrong on that, we still object.
Okay.
So that's why we should wait to have her testify. She can testify next week when she feels better.
All right. That all being said, you can make your motions, you can preserve the record at the appropriate time, and we'll proceed from there. Anything else?
Did you want to bring her up first to make sure?
Sure. Yep.
So Ken's got her in the room.
All right, Ken, put Miss Ewing in the, take her out of the waiting room, put her in the courtroom. She is a no, by the way, David. I don't know, did he? Yeah, he may not be listening, which could be part of the problem, because he normally has ear.
Well, we're
That's-
trying to get it up on the screen here. Oh, here. Yep.
Is she on?
Bill.
I am going to give her instructions after I swear her in also.
Is Ewing?
No, she turned her in.
Is Ewing, can you hear me? Hello?
She shut her video off. Looks like she's coming back on. Alrighty, nothing happened. Well, I should tell him to hold on. Oh, Ken, hold off a second. We're having technology issues. Do you have her phone number?
Johnson call.
Looks like she may have turned her video off. And now it looks like she's not even on with audio.
No, it doesn't even
Well,
look like
I'll just
she's.
say something, but I didn't want to, it had nothing to do with the
And I'm trying to use my mouse.
Did you leave here as well?
Are they not plugged into where?
No, because they're using our core technology to send a signal down to Candy's core. So you might have to be able to see her straight ring like over there. Sorry.
Can you put her back, take her out of the way, put her back in the room, try to put her back in? No. There she is. Can you hear
No,
us?
tell her to turn her audio on.
Is your audio on or off? Connect with audio?
Computer on. There you go. Now unmute yourself. There you go.
Say something.
I can hear you now.
Very good. Okay.
All right, don't, so just hit the mute button on your microphone at the bottom, because I have some things to say, so that this is the judge talking. Some things to say to the jury before we start your testimony, all right?
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll be with you short, right?
All rise, please.
What happened to the lighting?
Did you hit me?
That's all right. She could just not talk.
So County Court of Common Pleas, now in session. Presiding.
Thank you, may be seated. Good morning, everyone, thank you. By a show of hands, I'll wait till y'all get settled and comfy. By a show of hands, I want to ask each of you whether that you have followed the admonition I gave you, previously read to you in full, and that I reminded you of last night. Everyone in compliance with that order? Ms. Clayton? Yes? Okay. All right, excellent. Ms. Gorman, how about you? Yes? All right, thank you. All 18 have raised their hand. For the record, your next witness, Mr. LaPrinzi?
We're going to call Beverly Ewing to stand, but counsel would like to see the court sign out.
Sure. Well, and I'm going to come down there to swear her in because she needs to be able to see me on camera.
Okay.
No,
Oh, that's Ken.
because our technology's down to another courtroom. Remember.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm unmuted there.
Oh, I got it. And I'm a little short. I'm gonna have to move it. All right, Miss Sibley, or Miss Ewing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I will.
Okay, I want to give you some further instructions. Because of the delay, you have to wait and make sure that the question is fully asked before you answer, because if you cut off, the microphone doesn't pick it up. And so you have to make sure that you're waiting till the attorney who's asking the question is done asking you the question before you answer.
Okay.
And so I won't be on camera, but if you hear an objection, you are not to answer until I rule on that objection. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Lopez, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Ms. Ewing. If you would, please, I know you can't see them, but there's a jury here, and I want you to introduce yourself to that jury by telling them your full name and then spell your last name for the court reporter that's here.
Beverly Ewing, E-W-I-N-G.
And Ms. Ewing, where were you born and raised?
Akron, Ohio.
And how long have you been in Akron, Ohio?
All my life.
And are you currently married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
20 years.
Do you have any kids?
4 children.
Boys, girls?
2 boys and twin girls.
And would you mind giving us their ages?
18, 16, and the twins are 11.
All right. And for the rest of our discussion here, we are going to be talking about the time frame of 2015, 16, and 17, okay?
Okay?
So during those years, 2015, 16, and 17, where did you live?
1387 Hillcrest Street, Akron, Ohio.
All right. And is that in the city of Akron, Summit County, Ohio?
Yes.
And how long did you live at that address at that point in time?
We've lived here since June of 2001.
All right. And then prior to you moving into that home in 2001, who lived in that home before you?
My grandparents,
And how long had they lived there?
since the 70s.
So your family and you have lived there for what, 50 plus years at this point, or at that point?
That's correct.
I want to, if I can do this right, I'm going to try and share the screen with you here. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, and that is, for the record, is State's Exhibit number 13. And I know you are unable to point at anything, but I've got a little cursor here, and you indicated you lived at 1387 Hillcrest back in 2015, 16, and 17, correct?
That's correct.
So, as you can see, the map is marked as Hillcrest. You and I, prior to your testimony here this morning, had an opportunity for you to tell me where that was, and you had indicated that you lived in the house that's kind of mostly blocked by these trees that I'm circling right now. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. And who would live in the house? Let me strike that. Let me start up here on the corner of Fultz and Hillcrest. I believe that would be, well, I was going to say the southeast corner, but I'm not sure. But where I'm circling, do you know who lives in that house?
Yes, that's Chuck. We know him as Chuck. It's Chester.
Okay. And who lives in this house right here that I'm circling, which would be next to his?
Becky and Carl Wright.
Okay. And then this home right here that's between you and the Wrights, has that, well, let's go back. Chester, was he living there before you?
Yes.
And the Wrights, were they there before you?
Yes.
Now this house here, has there been any particular family that's been there for most of the time, or is that one that's been kind of changed over the years?
That has changed over the years.
All right, and I think there was prior testimony that it might be a rental property. Is that, do you know if that's the case or not?
That is correct. It's rental.
Okay. And then if this is your home, what then next to you is this building, is that right here, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that would be 723 Russell Avenue. Now it's next to you, but it actually has a Russell Avenue address. Is that correct? And that's because it's on the corner of Hillcrest and Russell?
That's correct.
All right. That building, 723 Russell Avenue, what type of building is that? Is it a house, apartments, condominiums? Do you know?
That's a duplex.
All right. And back in 2000, do you know anybody that lived, did you know anybody that, excuse me, 2015, 16, 17, did you know anybody that lived in this duplex?
There was a man by the name of Anthony, and we knew his little boy.
All right. And we'll come back to that a little later on. Do you know somebody by the name of Stanley Ford?
Yes.
And how do you know Stanley Ford?
He was a neighbor.
All right. And prior to you coming on to this video conversation, you had an opportunity to show me on the, or tell me on the map where he lived. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm going to show you, there's a house right here on the corner of Fultz and Hillcrest. It's 1370. who lived in this house?
That would be Stanley's wife.
Okay? And this house right here, 1374 Hillcrest, do you know who lived in that house?
Stanley.
Okay. And prior to Stanley, do you know who lived in this house?
No.
At 1374.
No.
Okay. And did you know Stanley Ford's mother?
I did not.
All right. So you said that Stanley's wife lived here and Stanley lived here, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Had you ever visited them in their homes?
No.
And so when you said that you believe Stanley lived in this house right here, what did you base that on?
I saw him coming out and going into that house.
All right. So this was the house that you regularly saw him going in and out of.
That's correct.
So you made the assumption he lived here.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ever see his wife or any other individuals coming in and out of this house here at 1374 Hillcrest, excuse me?
I don't really recall.
All right. So you have no specific memory of anybody other than Mr. Ford at that house?
That's correct.
Do you know an individual by the name of Lindell Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to see if I can show you another map. All right, can you see this map? Did it change for you?
No.
All right, let me try. Okay, can you see it now? Different map?
Yes.
All right. I'm showing you what's been previously identified as State's Exhibit number 12. Do you recognize this at all?
Yes.
All right. And so the house that I'm circling right here, 1370 Hillcrest, so that make sure we're on the same page. Whose house is that?
That would be Stanley's wife.
Okay. By the way, do you know when she moved into this house?
I do not know.
Was she there when you moved in 2000? If you recall.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't recall.
All right, very good. And then, so you said you knew Lindell Lewis?
I knew of him in the house he lived in, but I didn't know him personally.
All right, and also prior to you coming on here, we had an opportunity to show you this map or aerial photograph, and you had indicated 719 Fultz right here. Are you familiar with that house?
Yes, I am.
And whose house is that?
That would be Lindell's.
All right, now you said you didn't know Lindell, but you were familiar with him. How were you familiar with him?
I just knew of him living in that house.
All right. And how were you familiar with that house? Other than it just being in the neighborhood?
And just being in the neighborhood, and it was always wild. It seemed like wild.
All right. And just so that we kind of have some baseline of what wild means to you, can you tell this jury a little bit about yourself and your lifestyle and your family's lifestyle?
We go to church. We take our family to church. We're very quiet in the neighborhood. We don't party or anything like that.
So you don't sit on the porch and drink?
No.
Play cards and smoke?
No.
All right. So, and so when you say that their house was wild, what types of things did you see going on at that house?
There would be people sitting on the porch for late night hours, like midnight or after. They would be drinking, smoking, loud music. There would be people that if we even drove up that way, that they would come out from that residence and either ask for money or for like some type of help.
All right. And not kind of the lifestyle you lead, is that fair?
That is correct.
So as far as that neighborhood, or that neighbor and that home, did you take any precautions at all regarding that home?
We kept our children inside for the most part unless there was an adult outside. We never let them outside.
All right. And to just kind of clarify, was it specifically for that house or was it just in general for the neighborhood?
It was in general for the neighborhood.
All right. There were other elements in that neighborhood that you were also concerned about. Is that fair?
Yes.
One of those being at 723 Russell. Is that fair?
That is true.
Okay. In regards to Mr. Ford, did you talk to him at all over the years?
Yes. Yes.
And I know you said you didn't go to their home, and I'm assuming he didn't come into your home and socialize and have meals together. Is that fair?
No, he did not.
All right. But you did have neighborly conversations.
Yes.
And how often would you maybe have a conversation out in the street or yard with Mr. Ford?
Occasionally.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, your husband, you mentioned that you've been married over 20 years. He, during that time period, 15, 16, and 17, where did he work? What geographical location?
He worked in West Virginia.
All right. So did he travel out of state a lot?
Yes.
And do you know whether Mr. Ford was ever aware of that?
I believe he did.
And why do you believe that?
He told me that he would watch over our house and keep an eye on it.
All right. And did he give you his cell phone number and your children's cell phone number?
He did.
All right. And that was in an effort, if you needed anything while your husband was away, that he would be there for them, for you and them.
Correct. That's correct.
You said you go to church. What faith are you?
Protestant?
Christian?
Yes.
Okay. And did he ever talk to you about what anything about his, I guess, belief as to his position in the neighborhood?
He recalled to us one time and told us that he felt like God had placed him in that area as he was like an angel of God to watch over the neighborhood.
And at that time, you felt that was comforting, correct?
Yes.
You had mentioned a gentleman by the name of Anthony that lived down on 720 at the duplex on 723 Russell, correct?
Correct.
At some point in time, you had a vehicle that was parked in your driveway that had the window broken. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you have a conversation about that with Mr. Ford at some point?
Yes.
And did Mr. Ford indicate to you who he thought had broke that window out?
He thought it was the son of Anthony there on the corner.
All right.
Of Russell and Hillcrest.
And did you ever have an encounter with Anthony?
I did.
And the encounter you had with Anthony, was it, describe it for us, please.
It was a very uncomfortable encounter, it seemed like he was drunk, and I don't even remember how the conversation got started, but he basically said that he was the biggest drug dealer in that area.
Oh, wait up. Miss Ewing, hold on a second.
Ms. Ewing,
Hold on. There was an objection.
see, I think you're using your speaker. And so that's why she's not hearing us. So,
And Your Honor, we're not offering
I- right, okay. I just wanted to go back and reread the question. All right, your objection's noted but overruled. You may proceed.
All right, ma'am, if you could go ahead and answer the question again. Describe the interaction to us, please.
Okay, it was an uncomfortable situation. He acted like he was drunk. I don't even know what the conversation was about. But he basically had mentioned in the conversation that he was the biggest drug dealer in the area. At that point, I hurried up and told my mom, let's get in the vehicle. I wanted to get away.
All right. And you, at some point, you were aware that there was a car fire at 723 Russell, is that right?
Yes,
And who did you believe that car belonged to or was associated with?
that was Anthony, somehow related to Anthony. I don't know if it was his wife, his ex-wife, but it was something to do with Anthony.
And describe that vehicle for us.
It was a gray SUV.
Let me now move your attention to April 18th of 2016. Do you recall that date for any specific reason?
Not really.
Okay, if I were to tell you that was the date of the fire at Lindell Lewis's home, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
I would not disagree.
All right. Were you home when that fire occurred?
No,
And so that evening when the fire took place, you have no knowledge or information regarding that fire?
no, I don't.
Were you home the following day? Or, well, I guess it would be the same day. If that fire happens Sunday nights, or Sunday night, early morning, the next morning, would you have been there the next day after the fire?
Yes,
And was there something unusual that happened regarding Mr. Ford that day?
yes.
Tell us about that.
I had happened to be in the kitchen. My son was out on the porch, and my son called me to the window. He said, "Mom, come here quickly." He said, "This looks kind of strange." And he saw Stanley moving some barricades that the police had set up. And he would put his gloves on when he would move the barricades and then take them off to pull his vehicle out and put the gloves back on to put the barricades back where they were blocking the driveway.
All right, and those barricades were police barricades?
Yes,
And they were there because of the fire, is that fair?
that's correct.
All right. And that seemed unusual to you?
It did.
May I have a moment, Judge?
You may.
Ms. Ewing, We'll strike that. Your Honor, at this point in time, I believe we have a stipulation from the defense regarding the identity that Ms. Ewing, and the person she's referring to as Mr. Stanley Ford, is the individual that is sitting here today as defendant Stanley Ford.
Mr. Gorman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, for police and court, we have had an opportunity in the past to talk with Ms. Ewing. We know she knows who Mr. Ford is. From that fact, we would stipulate that if she was in the courtroom today, she would be able to point to Mr. Ford and identify him as the person that she is speaking of today.
All right, so for that, ladies and gentlemen, that means the parties have agreed that in previous testimony, as well as today, they're stipulating that if Ms. Ewing was in the courtroom, she would be able to identify Mr. Ford, and therefore they are stipulating to her identification of the defendant. Thank you.
Ms. Ewing, I have no further questions with you for you at this point, but defense counsel is going to get up now and ask you some questions, okay? So hang tight.
Mr. Gorman, before you start, if you'll give me an opportunity, I'm joining from this laptop, so then therefore, she'll be able to hear me through my, no, but I'm saying, she was unable to hear me on the objection because it's coming from his audio because our technology is fed to another courtroom. So I'm logging on so that if there's an objection, she will be able to hear me through my laptop.
Thank you, Judge. Just tell me when to start.
Well, as soon as Mr. Mazich lets me in the meeting, I'll be there.
Yes, sir.
Joe, do you need that map up there?
I might want another map.
You tell me what it is, I can get it up here for you. Or you,
See defendant
Gentlemen,
Bill
can you stop sharing? Can you stop the screen sharing? Because I think that's what's precluding me. Every time I get in, it's not letting me. Oh, it's showing I'm in. Technology. It's wonderful. Well, it looks like I'm on 3 times. Okay. My audio is all right, my computer's muted. I'm gonna probably have to turn down the main, we'll just deal with it. But at least I have the ability to talk to her directly if I need to. I'll try not to break anybody's eardrums.
we're going to try to screen share again for Mr. Gorman here. So hopefully that won't mess you up. We're good still?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, never mind the gentleman, I can do it every time I share the screen.
Is booting you?
It's fine.
We see you.
No, it's frozen. That,
Oh, you are
yeah, I'm
frozen.
off. All right, we'll just proceed the way we were.
Well,
If you, yeah.
if we object, we'll let Mr. Gorman.
I will ask her to stop if they object, Judge. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As quickly as I can.
All right, you may proceed, Mr. Gorman.
Thank you, Judge. All right. So, am I talking into this microphone? No. All right. Good morning, Mrs. Ewing. How are you?
Good, thank you.
My name is Joe Gorman. My co-counsel Scott Riley and I represent Mr. Ford. I have some questions for you this morning. I'm going to ask you to listen to them carefully. If you don't understand the question I'm asking, ask me to rephrase or repeat it before you answer. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. You and I had the opportunity about 16, 17 months ago to have a question and answer session, so to speak. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay. And you were in the courtroom that we're in right now, and you were under oath at that time. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you have, because I've spoken to Mr. LaPrenzi, I know you have a copy of your transcript from that day. You have that with you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't mind at all that if I ask you a question about that day and what you said on that day, if you review that transcript even before you answer if you want, as long as you let me, the judge, and the jury know that that's where you're getting your answer from. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay. So as we go through that process, just let us know, hey, I want to refresh my memory. I want to take a look at what I said before I answer you, and I don't have a problem with that, okay?
Okay.
All right. You also, well, you met with the prosecutors in preparation for your testimony at some point, did you not?
I did.
You kind of knew ahead of time the questions they were going to ask, correct?
Somewhat.
Okay. When did you meet with the prosecutors?
Just by phone.
Okay, and when did that happen, ma'am?
Yesterday, I believe, and today.
Okay, so you talked to him twice. Prior to your testimony back in March of 2020, you had met with them as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you were interviewed by Detective Beitzel, a white female, back in May of 2017. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and I think we established the last time you testified that she video and audio recorded you. Do you recall that?
I remember her audio, but I don't remember video.
And, you know what, I may be mistaken on the video. You were recorded, though, what you said that day. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, at one point, we had you review part of that audio recording prior to you answering some questions. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So with all that said, I want to focus your attention just on a few things, and we will proceed from there, and ask once again. I ask you to tell me whether or not you understand the question before you answer, or I'll assume you understand it if you do answer. Okay?
Yes.
All right. It's a little uncomfortable for me. I'm used to having the witness here, and I'm looking at a small little box so I can see you. And unless actually I put my reading glasses on, I can't even see you that well. All right. So it's a little uncomfortable. So I'm a little choppy, and I apologize for that. So your children at the time of the first fire in 2016 would have been how old?
I'd have to refresh my memory on that. I'd have to.
All right. About 5 years ago.
Okay, so the oldest would have been 13,
Okay.
and then the second would have been 11, and then the other ones, let's see, I'm trying to think, 7?
Okay. And back then, as littler children, they'd be more apt to want to go out and play. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. And I think you said, I just want to make sure this is right, it wasn't just Lindell Lewis's house at 719 Fultz that concerned you. It was the activity in the neighborhood in general. There were some pretty, I'll use the term, shady people in the neighborhood. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. So 723 Russell, the prosecutor used that address. You see on the screen, do you see Russell Avenue?
I do.
Okay. And it's down in the bottom portion of that picture, that overhead photo, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then Hillcrest, at least on the photo, appears to go north up to Fultz, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then, at least on the picture, if we were using the north-south, I'm not sure which direction those are ultimately actually in, but if we were using the picture, then you could go left and you'd go out to East Avenue from Fultz, correct?
Yes.
All right. Could you also go to East Avenue from Russell Avenue?
You could.
Okay. And then you could also go right down Fultz, and that would lead you to where the second fire happened in May of 2017. Am I right in saying that?
Yes,
Okay. In 723 Russell Avenue, was that Anthony's house?
yes,
Okay. And you described Anthony, or said he told you he was the biggest drug dealer around, correct?
yes.
All right. Do you know if Anthony sold drugs to people that lived at 719 Fulton Street?
I have no idea.
Okay. When he said he was the biggest one, you just took him at his word. Fair enough?
Yes,
All right. You don't have any personal knowledge about his drug dealing?
no,
Okay. The people at 719 Fulton, Lindell, Lewis, and the people that lived there, did you know who Tommy was?
I knew of him. I did not actually speak to him.
Did you know what his nickname was?
No,
Okay. Did you know that he cut lawns in the neighborhood for people for money?
yes,
Okay. Did he ever cut your lawn?
no,
Okay. So you saw him around the neighborhood doing those types of things.
correct.
Did you know that he lived in the basement of Lindell Lewis's house?
I had heard that.
Okay. So you were aware that he was staying there? Correct?
Yes,
Okay. All right. So I guess I want to talk to you about the barricades. The day after the fire, when I say the fire, I'm talking about the one at Lindell Lewis's house, or the morning of the fire, later on in the morning. That's when you saw these barricades, correct?
that's correct.
Those barricades weren't there prior to the fire, were they?
No,
And they were, in fact, those barricades placed there then they were Akron police barricades, correct?
correct.
All right. So those barricades, when we talk about barricades, we're talking about like those wooden structures that you would place trying to block people from having access to somewhere. Is that what we're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay, and they're movable, right? A man could move them. Is that fair?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And those barricades were in fact in the driveway or blocking the driveway of Mr. Ford's house, were they not?
yes,
So for him to get his vehicle out of the driveway without running over the barricades, he'd have to move them, wouldn't he?
yes,
Okay, and that's what you witnessed him doing, is that fair?
yes.
Do you know where he was going in his vehicle when he moved those barricades?
I have no idea.
Was he damaging in any way the barricades?
No,
Just moving them out of the way so he could get access to his vehicle onto the street, right?
yes.
Okay. Do you know about what time of the day that was?
I don't really know.
Okay. We talked about Anthony, the self-proclaimed drug dealer. There was another guy in the neighborhood named Leon. You remember Leon?
Yes,
Okay, where did Leon live? He lived on Hillcrest, correct?
that's correct.
Where he lived on Hillcrest, down closer to Russell or more closer to Fultz?
More closer to Russell.
Okay, and would he have lived on that street, on the side of the street where Stanley's mother's house was, or would it have been on the other side of the street on Hillcrest?
Same side as Stanley's mother.
Okay, about how many doors down, if you know?
It would be 2 doors down.
Okay, and Leon back then, in 2016, was renting individual rooms to people that were living in his house, correct?
Correct.
And those people were kind of transient. I think you described them to Lieutenant Beitzel as shady people, correct?
Yes,
And those people obviously would have been a concern of yours too when your kids would be outside on that same street, am I right?
yes,
Okay. You witnessed yourself also prior to that fire, you witnessed a car, and I think you described it to Lieutenant Beitzel as getting beaten up. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And I think you said it was a tall, slender individual who did it, but it was dark outside, so you couldn't identify the person. Is that fair?
that's correct.
Where did that happen, ma'am?
That happened in the driveway of, would be the duplex where Anthony lives,
Okay,
or had lived.
okay. And would that have been before or after, if you know, Anthony's car would have been, or a car in his house would have been set on fire? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Okay. So far in the neighborhood, we certainly have a fire the night Lindell Lewis's house burns down, and that would have been in April of 2016, as the prosecutor indicated, correct?
Yes,
Okay. We have an individual named Anthony who proclaims himself to be the biggest drug dealer in the area in the neighborhood, correct?
yes,
We have another individual right on your street named Leon who rents individual rooms in his house to multiple people that you described to Lieutenant Beitzel as shady, correct?
yes,
And then we see, or you see with your own eyes, an individual, when you say beating up a car, you're saying vandalizing that car, am I right?
yes.
When you describe that, would you describe what kind of vandalism was going on with that car?
I don't know exactly what was in the individual's hand, but there was something in his hand that he was beating the vehicle up with.
Okay. Like smashing windows, tearing off mirrors, stuff like that?
Yes,
Where were you when that was happening?
actually in our upstairs bedroom.
Okay. Did you call the police when that happened?
I don't remember if my husband did, or I really just don't remember.
Okay. So let me talk to you then about, you're aware of the second fire that happened in May of 2017, correct?
Yes,
All right. And after that fire is when you had that recorded conversation with Detective Beitzel. Am I right?
yes,
All right. In that second, or in that conversation with Detective Beitzel, she asked you if there were suspicious people in the neighborhood, right?
yes,
And that's when you started describing Anthony, and you described Leon, and you described the car that got beaten up, that you witnessed getting beaten up. Those are the times you were telling her those things, correct?
correct.
All right. And you also talked to her about a suspicious black car that you saw in your neighborhood prior to that fire in May of 2017, the second house fire, that would pull up into that neighborhood right near, where in the neighborhood exactly was it? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It would be in front of where the Wrights live. They live on Hillcrest Street.
Okay.
That would be two houses up from me,
2 houses up from you going towards Fultz?
going toward Folds.
Okay, so closer to where Mr. Ford's house is then. Fair enough?
Yes,
Okay, because we know his wife was at 1370, so he would have been parked up, or that vehicle would have been parked up near 1374, 1370. Is that fair?
it would be near the Wrights and closer up by like Chester's.
Okay, up near 714, where we know everyone here knows where Chester lives now, so it would be up there.
Okay.
All right, so that car, almost like clockwork for a period of time prior to that second fire, would pull up and park, and nobody would get out, correct?
That's correct.
That would happen sometime between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. On most evenings, or was it every night?
It wasn't every night, but it was several nights.
Okay, several nights before that fire, and that person would stay there for approximately an hour, correct?
That's correct.
And they would never exit the vehicle prior to that 2017 fire. Is that also correct?
Never saw them exit, no.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to, prior to the fire, tell us who was in that vehicle, would you?
No,
Okay. But after the fire, that same suspicious black car came back after the second fire in May of 2017, did it not?
that's correct.
And that time it came back during the day, am I right?
Yes,
So the fire trucks at 2000, or at 693 Fultz, where the fire occurred, the second fire, the fire trucks and everything would have still been there, correct?
yes,
It would have been daylight, am I right?
yes,
In that time, after the fire, the person inside that suspicious black vehicle actually got out, correct?
that's correct.
You saw that person, correct?
Yes,
It was a black man?
yes.
Okay, how far away from that black man were you standing when you saw him?
Maybe 10 to 12 feet.
Okay, so we know it wasn't Stanley Ford, correct?
That's correct.
That black man, when he got out of that vehicle, had a big smile on his face, did he not?
Yes,
And he was very interested in what had just occurred in the neighborhood, was he not?
yes,
And you knew that through the conversation you had with him, correct?
correct.
How long did that short conversation take place for?
Maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. And that person then, I don't want to put words in your mouth, do they then get back in that black vehicle and drive away?
Yes,
Do you know where they go?
I have no idea.
Did you ever see that black vehicle again in that neighborhood after that encounter the morning of the fire?
No,
And ma'am, I think it would be fair to say that in May of 2017, shortly after you had that conversation with that African-American male that got out of that suspicious black car, you told Detective Beitzel about that interaction with him, correct?
yes,
You also told Detective Beitzel of the Akron Police Department about the fact that he had been coming up into that neighborhood, parking his car, not getting out of his car, and staying for approximately an hour at a time on the days leading up to that 2017 fire, did you not?
yes.
If I can have a moment, Judge.
Sure.
Thank you. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I hope you feel better, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. At this point in time, I don't have anything further for you. Thank you.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Don't tell her not to go anywhere.
Oh, don't go anywhere, ma'am.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Ewing. Couple more follow-up questions, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to show you, let's see, where's the mouse here? Are you familiar at all with this home right here? It's on Fultz.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine. And over here would be where the second fire took place in 2017, is that correct?
That's correct.
You talked about the Anthony proclaiming the biggest drug dealer. Were there other places in this area that you believed also maybe drug-related houses? If you don't know, that's fine.
I mean, I really don't know. I just know, like, up on Fultz, it seemed to be a little bit more sketchy of an area that I would avoid even trying to drive up that way.
And did you know the family that lived at 693 Fultz that burned?
I did not.
All right. Is it kind of fair to say that the neighborhood was kind of, I guess diverse isn't the right word I'm looking for, but divided? There was people that lived there for 40, 50 years that were kind of just kept to themselves, and then there was this other element you've kind of described for us. Is that fair?
That's correct.
The black vehicle that you mentioned, you talked about that being outside for an hour at a time. Would you watch that vehicle for the entire hour, or was it just that you were noting, hey, listen, I saw that there, at 7 o'clock, and now it's 8 o'clock, or whatever time it would have been, or did you watch it for the whole hour?
I did not watch it the whole hour.
All right. And so if somebody were to pull up and sit there for a while, is it possible they got out and you did not notice them?
It would be possible.
And you wouldn't have, and since you didn't see it, you wouldn't have any idea where they went?
No.
What time frame in relation to the first fire at Lindell's house would you have started seeing that vehicle? Well, let's start with this. Was it? Go ahead.
I'm not real sure.
Was it before or after Lindell's fire?
It would have been after Lindell's.
All right. So prior to Lindell's fire, you had not seen that vehicle there?
No,
Did you ever get a license plate number?
I didn't.
All right. And so it was after Lindell's fire and that you started seeing that?
Yes.
And the individual that you said you got out of the vehicle, I think Mr. Gorman indicated it was an African American. Was that your recollection?
Yes.
Did you have a conversation with that person?
I did not. I was there because Leon and the neighbor next to us they were conversing with him, and I was standing there as a bystander but heard the conversation.
And what did he say?
Objection.
Overruled. He wanted to know what had happened in the area, and he said it looks like a fire, and then he said, well, he kind of laughed with a big smile on his face and said, you know how it is, black people kill their own black people.
And did he ask a question about a shooting?
I just can't remember now going back that far.
All right. Huh?
If you were to sit down, I don't want to read.
No. I was going to grab the transcripts. I'm sorry, Your Honor, could I have a moment?
You may.
Thank you. Ma'am, in your interview with Lieutenant Beitzel, do you recall telling her that the individual?
I'm objecting to the leading nature of the questions.
Well, does she have her, she's indicated she doesn't remember the part of the conversation you asked, right? So ask her the proper question. Objection sustained.
Your Honor, I don't have the ability to I guess we could play I'd have to refresh her and have the jury step out.
Come aside. Gorman, your objection is sustained. Mr. Lipinski, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Just, you tell me the page number and all. Ms. Ewing, do you have your transcript there?
I do.
Now, you said you hadn't, you didn't recall because it's been so long. Would that transcript help you refresh your recollection as to what was said?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, can you take a look at page number 34 of your transcript, please? Okay, yeah, let's go to 33, and I guess starting at line 12, read that to yourself, please, and see if that refreshes your recollection.
Okay.
And then you could probably stop about midway through page 34, okay?
Okay, I read through that.
Does that refresh your recollection at all as to what the person had said?
Yes.
And what was it that they said?
He did ask, he referred to it as a shooting. He wanted to know if someone had been shot.
And you,
and that's when the neighbor next to me kind of indicated to him what was going on. And he just said, well, you know how it is. And then he had a big smile on his face.
all right. And you thought that was odd. Today you said something about he had asked about a fire, but you didn't tell us that previously. Is that correct? It was a shooting.
That would be correct.
Okay. And you thought, and it stood out in your mind that he was asking about a shooting because it was clear there was fire trucks around. Is that fair?
Right.
Okay. Ms. Ewing, you, on cross-examination, you talked briefly about your testimony and Mr. Ford moving the barrier that was put up by the police department, correct?
That's correct.
And you had indicated that Mr. Ford was blocked in and he had to move it in order to get out, correct?
That's correct.
Was that the part of it that was odd for you?
No.
What was the odd part?
I guess seeing him put on gloves, I don't recall that I would never do something like that. Putting on gloves and then moving the barricade and then taking them off to move your vehicle and then putting it back on to move the barricade back over.
And why was that suspicious to you?
I guess in my mind, I just wondered like why he was doing it. Didn't he want fingerprints on it?
All right. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Gorman,
Thank you, Judge.
subject to redirect.
And it will be, Your Honor. Thank you, I think. Ms. Ewing?
Yes,
All right, so I got to talk about the barricades again. The barricades were placed there by the Akron Police Department after the fire, correct?
that is correct.
The barricades couldn't possibly then be part of or evidence of anything that had to do with the fire scene, could they?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just take everything in perspective.
Sure. Well, if the barricades weren't there prior to the fire and they were placed there after the fire, they certainly had nothing to do with the fire, did they?
True.
All right. And then I want to clarify this mysterious black car in 2017. I want to make sure we're clear. You had a chance to refresh your memory by looking at your transcript. The prosecutor provided you that opportunity, correct?
That's correct.
All right. You made it very clear when you testified last that that car was there multiple times prior to that second fire, correct?
That is correct.
And that car stayed for approximately an hour each time, correct?
That is correct.
Up near Chester Williams' home, correct?
Yes.
And that individual you testified to before never got out of the car. Is that fair?
Yes.
And then, right after the fire, the car comes back, correct?
That's correct.
This time the individual gets out for the first time as you've ever seen him get out of the vehicle, correct?
That is correct.
He starts talking to people in the neighborhood who are probably milling about because we have a huge traumatic event happening right up the street. Am I right?
Yes.
And it's clear to all that a fire has taken place. A house has burnt, correct?
Yes.
And he gets out of the car with a big smile on his face and doesn't say anything about a fire. He says, did somebody get shot, correct?
Yes.
And you found that to be extremely unusual because anybody that was there then with all the fire trucks around with the burnt house, you found the question, did somebody get shot, to be an extremely unusual question from that guy with a big smile on his face, correct?
Right.
No further questions, thank you.
All right. Ms. Ewing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. So your testimony's concluded. Thank you. We hope that you feel better, and we appreciate you bringing your potential issues to the court's attention. And you may end the meeting and leave the meeting now.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Can you just walk on the sidebar just briefly? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the state may call its next witness.
Call of Detective Simona Hall.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask, and then I'm just going to ask that you speak up, speak into the microphone so we can hear your testimony.
She's not. Hey, Bob, start.
No, David. No video. Okay, you may proceed.
Yes. Okay, ma'am, can you please state your full name, spell your last name for the record, please?
Simona Hall, Hall,
Can you tell the jury where you're employed?
at the Akron Police Department.
What do you do for them?
I am currently assigned to the crime scene unit.
Okay. Are you a police officer?
I am.
And you're a detective?
That's correct.
How long have you been a police officer?
For 26 years.
How long have you been a detective?
For 7 years as of today.
Oh, congratulations. All with the Akron Police Department?
That's correct.
And are you a duly appointed peace officer in the state of Ohio?
Yes.
Have you been assigned to other divisions of the Akron Police Department other than the crime scene unit?
Yes. Patrol.
Just patrol?
Yes.
Detective Hall, can you tell the jury what type of training that you took or classes you went to that enabled you to become a crime scene detective with the Akron Police Department?
I have 8 weeks of additional training in fingerprinting, crime scene processing, death scenes, photography, and blood spatter.
Okay. Blood spatter?
Spatter.
Yeah. Did you tell us about your photography classes? What are those? And what do those entail?
Oh, there's actually 3 weeks of photography class. Was it 3? I think. We learn how to use a digital camera.
Okay. And how to take photographs in a proper way for court purposes?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you a crime scene technician?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us about that. How do you get that certification?
Again, from all the training that we have a practical that we have to take at the end of the training, and once you pass the practical, then you're it's a master tech certification.
Who gives that certification?
OPATA.
OPATA. What is OPATA?
OPATA is the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy.
Okay. Now, Detective Hall, I'd like to draw your attention to April 18th of 2016. Do you recall that date?
I do.
And were you working in your capacity as a detective for the Akron Police Department in the crime scene unit on that date?
I was.
And were you working with anyone else?
Yes.
Who?
Detective Clarence Dorsey.
All right. And is he still with the Akron Police Department?
He is not. He's retired.
He's retired. Okay. Now, Detective Hall, did you have a chance to respond to the area of Fultz Avenue in the city of Akron on that date?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury why?
We received a call in our office from, I think it was then Detective Ross, John Ross, he's now Sergeant John Ross, stating that there had been an arson at 719 Fultz, and there were also 2 people deceased in the house.
Okay, and what was he requesting that you do when you responded to the scene?
Take photos and recover video.
Recover video,
Yes.
okay. And you responded to that scene with Detective Clarence Dorsey?
Dorsey.
Yes. And what was the first thing you saw when you arrived on scene?
When we arrived, 719 Fultz was completely destroyed by fire, is what we seen.
Okay. And we have a map here. Can you see that there from where you're sitting?
Not really.
State's Exhibit number 12.
Yes,
Do you recognize this area of the city?
I do.
In 719 Fultz, is that right there?
Yes.
Now, what was the first thing you did when you arrived on scene there?
We were met by Sergeant Ross, and he let us know that he wanted us to recover video from 714 Fultz.
714 Fultz, which is there at the corner of Fultz and Hillcrest. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go over there?
Yes.
Did you observe the house?
Yes.
What did you notice on the outside of the house?
Cameras.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you a series of photographs that are marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 1 through 5. Can you please take a minute to look through these? Let me know when you're finished. Thank you. Are you finished?
I am.
Okay. Detective Hall, we're going to go over these photographs in more detail. But generally, do you recognize these photographs?
I do.
Can you tell the jury what they are?
They are photos of the exterior of 714 Fultz and the camera placement.
Do these photographs fairly and accurately represent the cameras and 714 Fultz on April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to publish State's Exhibits 1 through 5.
Yes, you may.
Now, Detective Hall, I'm going to draw your attention to that screen next to you. Once it gets warmed up here. Detective Hall, I'm placing on the document camera what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 1. Can you tell the jury what this photograph shows?
That's the front or front and side of 714 Fultz.
Okay, and we do see a street sign there.
Yes.
What's that location?
Fultz at Hillcrest.
Okay, I'm going to put on the document camera what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. What does this photograph show?
That's the direct front view of 714 Fultz and the camera placement of the camera that was on the front porch. I believe that's camera 4.
Okay, and you were pointing to it on your document camera. Do you see my finger here? Is this
Yes.
where you were pointing in that area?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to show you on the document camera State's Exhibit number 5. Can you tell the jury what this photograph shows?
That's a closer view of camera 4 on the porch in front of 714 Fultz.
Now you're referring to that as camera 4. What is that based on?
Based on the system, the way it's numbered in the system.
Okay, the system inside of 714 Fultz, that's labeled number 4.
That's correct.
Okay. On the document camera, I'm going to place State's Exhibit number 3. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
This is the back and side view of 714 Fultz. And you
Right.
also see cameras on that on that side as well.
All right, and then State's Exhibit number 4, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
That's a closer view of one of the 3 cameras that were on that side.
Okay, and that is right here.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after you saw those cameras on the outside of 714 Fultz Detective Hall, tell the jury what you did next in regards to this camera system.
Went inside and spoke to the owner, took a look at the video system, and began to work on getting the correct views we were looking for and times.
Okay. And who is the owner of this system?
Chester Williams.
Okay. And we're going to see some photographs of your determination about the times in a minute. But were you able to download the video from 714 Fultz?
Yes.
Tell the jury how you did that.
I used a flash drive to connect to the system, and from there you go into the main menu. From there you go to your event, you pick your times, you pick your camera, you can pick your file, which way you want the file to be, which file type you want, and then you save and click it and it starts.
So you save it onto this flash drive.
Yes.
And how did you know which times to do or to look for?
We were given some direction from Sergeant Ross about what time the call came in and how much time he wanted before and after.
Okay. And so you went out of the system and you were able to download that onto a flash drive. Did you later transfer that from the flash drive?
Yes.
Where'd you transfer them onto?
DVDs.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
DVDs. 3 DVDs.
Detective Hall, I'm showing you a package that's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 35. Can you please take a minute to look at that? Let me know when you're finished. Are you finished?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what State's Exhibit number 35 is?
Those are the original copies of the downloaded footage from the flash drive onto those 3 DVDs.
So these are the DVDs that you downloaded from the flash drive?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I put them into evidence.
Okay. And
My
your name's
name is
on here?
there, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Detective Hall, did you take some photographs of the video system there at 714 Fultz?
Yes, photographs were taken of the system.
And why do you do that?
We do that to document where we were, that it was in working order, and then to document the time.
Okay. Now, you took some other photographs that day too, correct?
Photographs were taken that day, yes.
And you saw the general area of that neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Detective Hall, do you recognize this slideshow presentation?
Yes.
Okay, and are these the photographs that you put together on that date, April 18th of 2016?
I'm sorry.
Does this slideshow have the photographs that you put together on April 18th of 2016? I can scroll down so you can see them.
Yes.
They are, okay. I'm going to mark this, Judge, as State's Exhibit number 36, this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, Detective Foltz, just some preliminary slides there. This is the map that we were looking at in State's Exhibit 12, is that fair?
Yes.
This is the camera from State's Exhibit number 5.
Yes.
And I believe these are the cameras on State's Exhibit number 3. Is that fair?
Yes.
What are we looking at here in slide F of State's Exhibit number 36, Detective Hall?
This is a picture of the backup page on the system.
Okay. And what about this photograph here? What are we looking at here?
That's a photo of the real time versus the system time
Okay. And where is the real time located?
on the cell phone.
And whose phone is that?
Mine.
Yours. So you're using that phone to set the actual time that you're taking the photograph, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is slide G. Is that correct, Detective Hall? Slide G in the corner?
Oh, it doesn't show me the slide on here.
Oh, okay. Now, Detective Hall, I know it's hard to see, but where is the time on this slide?
On the slide or on the photo of the system. It's
Yeah, the photo
at
of the
top.
system, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's right at the top
Okay.
left of the phone.
Okay, so what color is the lettering?
It's gray.
Gray, okay, that makes it difficult to read,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So if you get up close to it, can you just read the date?
4/18/2016.
Okay, so it says 18/4/2016,
Yes.
but it's really April 18th of 2016, would you agree?
Correct.
All right. And so can you read that time for the jury?
5:03 and 15 seconds.
And then when you look at your time difference there from the actual time, what's the actual time there on your phone?
8:58 and 20 seconds.
So a difference of about 3 hours and 55 minutes, fair?
Correct.
How long did you download from this DVR?
I requested an hour.
Okay. Did you know if any other times would potentially become relevant at that time?
At that time, I did not know.
Okay. When you downloaded this video from this DVR, Detective Hall, did the process go smoothly?
As smoothly, I guess, as they can go.
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
All the systems are different, so you kind of have to learn them, each one you go to.
Okay. Did you go to training to specifically learn how to download this video from like a DVR like this?
I have been to training, yes.
Okay. But all the systems are different, so you have to kind of learn it first, fair?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, Detective Hall, did you have a chance to go to an address at 730 Fultz Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. And referring to this map, State's Exhibit I, very similar to State's Exhibit number 12, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, slide I there on State's Exhibit 36. 730 Fultz is directly behind 1370 Hillcrest.
That's correct.
And you went to that location?
I did.
Tell the jury why you went there.
At that time, I was assisting Detective Stewart with a canvas, and we were looking for additional surveillance cameras.
And what did you notice on the outside of 1730 Fultz?
There were
Or 730 Fultz, excuse me, 730 Fultz.
There were cameras attached to the home, however, they were all unplugged.
Did you take photographs?
Yes.
All right, tell us what the jury's showing here in slide K of State's Exhibit 36.
Those, it's showing the corner, but it's the front, side, and corner of 730 Fultz, and it shows the camera there with the plugs just hanging, and there's a camera here as well, and the plug is hanging there.
Okay, and the first camera that you referred to is above a chair, is that fair?
Yes.
All right, and then the second camera is where?
It's near the address and near the grill,
Okay.
above the grill,
The door there at 730 Fultz, does it open inward or outward?
inward.
What are we showing here in slide L of 730 Fultz?
Just a closer view of that camera on the house.
And slide M?
A closer view of the second camera near the address.
Were you able to find out the status or operability of this video system?
We spoke to the person at the residence there, and he stated that
Sustained.
Were you ever able to download any video footage from 730 Fultz?
no.
Detective Hall, were you able to view the exterior of 719 Fultz, the area that burned, or the house that burned?
Yes.
Looking at slide N there, we're back to 730 Fultz. What is that showing?
The cord of the second camera hanging,
And then O, slide O.
the same cord, just lower with the, it's just not attached to anything there, the plug.
Okay. And when you viewed the exterior of 719 Fultz, Detective Hall, did you see anything on the exterior of that house?
There was a camera mounted on the exterior of 718.
Detective Hall, I'm showing you two documents previously been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 27 and 28. Can you take a second and look at those? Okay. Do you recognize these photographs?
I do.
Tell the jury what these are.
Those are photos of the camera mounted on the exterior of 719 Fultz. I think that's the west side rear.
Your Honor, before I sit down, just for purposes of the record, State's Exhibit number 36 has slides that go from letter A through O. And that's the last thing I have, Your Honor. And I have no other questions at
And
this
that's
time.
on a thumb drive, right?
That's on a thumb drive marked this presentation will be marked State's Exhibit number 36.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Riley, before you start your cross, I believe it's appropriate for us to take our morning break. It's 10 to 11. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll remind you of the admonition I've previously given you. It's important for you to be fair and attentive. Do not discuss a case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. This includes family, friends, and the media. You must not post or read anything about this case. Any discussion, if discovered, could lead to a mistrial and would severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. Do not form or express an opinion until the case has finally been submitted to you. You'll leave your pads upside down on your seats. And I'm going to say be back at 11 o'clock. And just so you're aware, we're going to finish this cross-examination, and then we're going to do our third and final witness for the day and go right into that, and then we'll be done for the day. All right? We're adjourned.
All rise, please. Summit County Court of Common Pleas is again in session. Animal Christian Croce presiding.
Thank you. You may be seated. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the delay. There was an issue that arose on the break, and we're going to pause Detective Hall's testimony. She'll be called back and be subject to cross-examination, but in an effort to move this along and not sit around and wait idly, since we only have a half day today, we are going to move on to the next witness, and then we'll bring her back and we'll complete her testimony. All right? So, if you would raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Go ahead and have a seat, and then once you're settled, you may remove your mask, please. And then, Mr. D'Angelo, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Sir, can you please state your full name, spell your last name for the record, please?
My name is Ellis Winford Polk, P-O-L-K.
Are you currently employed?
No, I'm retired from the Akron Fire Department.
All right, and how long are you a fireman?
Yes, I was.
How long were you a fireman?
26 years.
And all with the Akron Fire Department?
Yes.
And Mr. Polk, can you tell the jury what division of the Akron Fire Department you were assigned to when you retired?
Fire Investigation Unit.
And so are you an Akron Fire Department investigator, or were you?
Yes.
How long did you do that?
9 years.
And were you assigned to other divisions of the Akron Fire Department?
Yes, normal firefighter / paramedic, and then 2007 I went to the Fire Investigation Unit.
Okay. And when you went to that Fire Investigation Unit in 2007, can you tell the jury, did you undergo any specialized training that enabled you to become an Akron Fire Department investigator?
Yes, went to Bowling Green University for Arson 1 in the year 2008, and also in 2009 went back for Arson 2. Then later that year I went to the the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Virginia, Maryland.
What's Arson 1, Arson 2? What are those? I'm assuming they're classes or courses that you take?
Yes, it's classes that you take to show you the dynamics of how fires start and how to detect where they start and what caused the fire.
So the cause, origin of where a fire is, those classes teach you?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Investigator Polk, how long were you an investigator for?
9 years.
How many fires did you investigate?
Throughout my years, probably somewhere in a couple hundreds.
All right. Are you just investigating arsons, or are you investigating every fire that comes into the Akron Fire Department?
On my shift, all the fires that come in.
Okay. What do your duties entail specifically as a fire investigator for the Akron Fire Department?
To respond with the fire companies when the call goes out of a fire, and then determine the origin and cause of that fire, and if there's a criminal activity, to try to make an arrest on a person who started the fire.
Okay. Do you work with other agencies when there's a criminal activity involved?
Yes, at times we call in the state fire marshal.
Do you ever work with the Akron Police Department?
I had not at that time.
Okay. Would you work with the Akron Police Department if you were getting close to arresting a subject?
Yes.
Could you arrest somebody as a fireman?
Yes, I had police capabilities as well. I went through the police academy.
Okay, so you're a policeman and a fireman.
Correct.
All right. Now, Investigator Polk, I'd like to draw your attention to April 18th of 2016. Do you recall that date?
Yes, I do.
Were you working as an investigator for the Akron Fire Department at that time?
Yes.
And when was it that you actually retired?
Official date was June 5th, 2016.
Okay, so shortly after this fire, you then retired.
Correct.
All right. Now, Investigator Polk, did you have a chance to respond to a fire located at 719 Fultz Avenue in the city of Akron on that date?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury what the circumstances were of that fire when you arrived, what you saw?
I went up East Avenue, and as I pressed the top of the hill, I saw a large orange glow, which was approximately a block and a half away, was Fultz Avenue. I turned onto Fultz Avenue, A lot of fire companies was down there, so I had to park near the corner of Fultz and East Avenue.
And what was the time of day? I mean, was it light, dark?
It was dark.
It was dark, okay. And you said there was a lot of fire personnel there?
Correct.
Were the police there?
I believe so.
You had to park at the end of Fultz, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here, Stacy exhibit number 12. What's that?
You can move the TV back.
Oh, okay.
It's on you.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Polk, you see this, Stacy exhibit number 12, this poster board here?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please point to the jury, or show the jury where you parked?
I parked in this area right here.
Okay. At the corner of East and Fultz.
Correct.
So, although it was dark out, there was a lot of light in the neighborhood, fair?
That's fair.
What was that coming from?
Lights were coming from the fire from the house as well as the fire engines and different apparatus.
Okay. Yeah, Investigator Polk, did you know the residents of 719 Fultz?
Did I know them before?
Yes.
No, wasn't aware who was there
Okay, at that time when you arrived.
when I arrived, yes.
But did you know Lindell Lewis and Gloria Hart personally outside of this fire?
I knew of Lindell Lewis only.
Okay. How did you know him?
Just friends from school and the neighborhood
How long have you lived in Akron?
all my life.
Okay. And so you've known him since you were in, what, grade school, high school?
Grade school.
So a long time.
Yes.
How close of friends were you with him?
Not extremely close, just knew him from school, and my brothers and his brothers also approximately the same age, and they went to school as well.
Okay. Did you, did you consider them even friends or just acquaintances, Mr. Lewis?
I considered him a friend.
Would you go out to dinner with him or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Now, Investigator Polk, when you arrived on scene initially, did you know that that was Lindell Lewis's house even?
No, I did not.
And after you arrived on scene, tell the jury what was the first thing that you did.
I walked down from the corner, and the house right there, I believe, was Mr. Costa's house. He was standing out in the front yard, and I spoke with him first.
Okay. I'm showing you on this document camera here, Investigator Polk,
So that's going to be on your right, yep, there you go.
a photograph that's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 32. Do you recognize the person in this photograph?
Yes, that's Mr. Costa.
Okay. You spoke with Mr. Costa.
Correct.
Did you, without telling us what he said, what generally did you talk to him about?
Did he know what happened at the fire?
Okay. Did he know who the people were at the house next door?
Yes.
And did he tell you who they were?
No, he didn't tell me. He just said he didn't believe they was out of the house.
Okay. Now, that night, did you speak with anyone else?
Yes, I spoke with a person living in the basement of the house, Thomas Hughley.
Right. Showing you a photograph on the document camera that's marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 24. Can you tell the jury who this man is?
Thomas Hughley.
When you spoke with Mr. Hughley, can you describe his demeanor to the jury?
He seemed to be a little upset, maybe shaken, to the point when I first started talking with him.
And when you started talking with him, did he describe to you an event that had just occurred or was occurring?
Yes, he told me he was in the basement watching reruns of a basketball game. He heard a boom. He got up. He thought Lindell had fallen again, and he had often went up to help pick him up. When he got to the steps, he noticed a glow. He went up the first set of stairs, saw that there was fire, and he went out.
Okay. Now, did he describe to you Lindell's physical condition?
He told me he had some kind of hip injury and it had recently had surgery.
And was this the first time at that point that you learned that Lindell Lewis was involved?
That's correct.
Okay. Did he indicate anybody else was inside of the house?
He told me a female by the name of Jeannie. He wasn't aware of her last name.
Okay. Okay. After you spoke with Mr. Kugley, what did you do, Mr. Polk?
I went back over and talked to Mr. Costa because I only spoke with him a short time. And I went back to talk with him and get more information that he had possibly would have of the fire.
Okay. And during your conversation with Mr. Costa, did you speak with him about his knowledge of the dynamics of the neighborhood?
Yes, I spoke with him and he said that.
You don't have to tell us what he said, but you did talk to him about that.
Correct.
Specifically, without telling us what he said, did you speak with him about Mr. Lewis's relationship with the defendant, Stanley Ford?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Costa, or excuse me, Mr. Polk, after you spoke with Nicholas Costa, can you tell the jury what you did next, where you went next?
I went back over and talked with Thomas again.
Okay. At some point, did you go inside of 719 Fultz?
Yes, I did.
And when you went inside, did you take photographs?
Yes.
Mr. Polk, I'm going to show you a slideshow presentation that has previously been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 37. 37. Thanks. Mr. Polk, can you see the side over here of these photographs?
Yes.
Okay. And as I'm scrolling down, do you generally recognize these photographs?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what these are?
Those are the photographs from the fire at 719 Fultz.
On April 18th of 2016?
That's correct.
Do these photographs fairly and accurately represent the scene as you saw it on April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask to publish State's Exhibit number 37 to the jury.
You may.
Okay. Investigator Polk, we're looking at slide B here, State's Exhibit number 37. Tell the jury what this is.
That is the street address of Hillcrest and Fultz.
Okay. What are we looking at here in slide D of State's Exhibit 37?
You're looking at the front and the left side of 719 Fultz.
Slide E.
Hold on one second, because here's what's going on.
Oh, we're blocking
Yeah.
that TV.
Yeah, so look at it, I'll move this. So you move that and I'll scoot the TV.
Joe, do you want this back over there? Is that right?
Yeah, that's fine. You can take that down.
Got it for jurors 1, 2, and 3? Yes? Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
All right, so would you just go back to slide 8, please? Because I don't think they had the opportunity to see it on the big screen.
Slide A.
Yes.
All right. We're at slide A.
Well, I guess at the end.
That's okay. Mr. Polk, this is slide A is just an introductory slide. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. Slide B, you had previously testified that this was a street sign.
Correct.
Okay. All right, slide D was what you were just describing. Can you just do that again for us, please?
The front and left side of 719 Fultz.
What type of house was this?
2.5 story wood frame with aluminum siding.
Okay. Slide E, can you tell us about this photograph?
Same, just a different angle.
Okay.
of 719 volts.
And slide F,
That's the front,
just a different angle.
just a different angle.
Slide G,
Also the front, different angle.
and slide H.
The front, where the front door was, and
So this area here that I'm pointing to, or that is on slide H, is the front door of the residence.
correct,
And that would be on the right or left side
the right side
as you're facing it.
as you face the house.
Okay? Another photograph, slide I.
That's correct, of the 719 volts.
Tell us about slide J.
That is the right side of 719 volts and the front side,
As you're facing it, it would be the right side.
correct.
And slide K.
That's the right side of 719 volts.
In slide K, we do see a ladder going up to a window there. Can you tell the jury where that ladder leads to?
Bathroom
Okay.
of 719.
Where were Mr. Lewis and Miss Hart found?
They was lying on the floor by the bathtub in the bathroom.
Okay. Slide L, can you tell the jury what this slide shows in State's Exhibit 37?
That is the back side and the right side of 719 volts.
And slide M.
That is the side door entranceway.
Okay. So we previously saw this slide, or that doorway right there in slide K. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So slide M is just a closer of that.
Yes.
Slide N, can you tell us about this photograph?
That is the kitchen when you come in from the side door.
Slide O, can you tell us about this one?
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that looks to be the dining room, living room area.
You may. Okay, you may proceed. You may proceed, Mr. D'Angelo.
You can see slide O there, Mr. Polk.
Yes.
And tell the jury what this photograph shows. What is this?
That's the dining room area.
Okay? And you can actually, if you look through this picture, what do you see on the other side?
Another house.
The other house.
Yes,
So as you're facing the house, that would be the house to the left. Is that fair?
correct.
I think you said Mr. Costa.
Mr. Costa's house.
Slide P, can you tell us about this photograph? Where is this?
That's the living room area of 719 Folks.
Slide Q.
Same living room area,
Okay.
different angle or larger angle.
Do you see this item here on slide Q, Mr. Polk, that has wheels on it?
Appears to be some type of walker.
Walker.
Yes.
Slide R, can you tell us about this photograph?
That's the stairways to the second floor.
All right. And slide S, can you tell us about this photograph?
That is the bathroom with Lindell and Gloria lying on the floor.
Okay. And Investigator Polk, do you know when they were discovered, was the door to the bathroom open or closed?
When they was discovered, I don't know.
Okay. When you went in there, was it open or closed?
It was open.
Okay. Have you investigated fires before, Investigator Polk, in your training and experience where folks have perished in the fire?
Yes, I have.
And how common is it that someone would go into the bathroom of a residence that's on fire?
Quite common that they would go in.
Tell the jury, if you know, why that happens.
I believe it happens because they have a sense of getting in the bathtub and putting water around them to keep the fire from getting to them.
Okay. Now, we had seen previously there was a ladder going up to the second floor of this bathroom. Is that correct in the prior slides? I want to talk a little bit about that window. Is it common for people to open a window?
Yes.
And is that a good or bad idea?
It's good sometimes for them to try to jump out, and sometimes it's bad because of smoke or fire and everything comes in, and it also helps speed the fire up.
How does that happen? Why does that happen?
Because when air comes in, and if you don't have that doorway closed, it's going to feed the fire, or if you don't have some tiles or a rug under the bottom of it, the air is going to flow through and also feed the fire.
Investigator Polk, they have some white stuff on their hands and their arms and around their mouth. Do you know what that is?
No, I do not.
Okay, so you don't know what that is at all?
No.
Okay. Do you know why he, when I'm referring to he, Mr. Lewis, has a towel wrapped around his arm?
No, I don't know why.
Did you examine the bodies at all or look at them?
I looked at them, yes.
Did they have any burns on them?
No, they did not.
Investigator Polk, can you tell us about slide T of State's Exhibit 37?
Just a close-up of Lindell and Gloria.
Good. And slide U, can you tell us about this photo?
It's just a different angle, and also you can see the window where they was at trying to get attention, yelling for help. Also, the firemen had put lights and a fan to take the smoke debris out.
So there's lights and fans in this bathroom at this time?
Correct.
Investigator Polk, these cords coming in and out of the window, what are those if you know, and what are they related to?
Those are the extension cords that they plug their lights and fans into.
The fire department does?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, after you went inside and looked at the scene, Investigator Polk, did you call another agency for assistance to investigate the fire?
Yes, the Ohio State Fire Marshal.
And can you tell the jury why it was you called the Ohio State Fire Marshal to the scene?
Because with APD and myself, we saw that there was a video across the street, and we saw an individual who had put accelerant on their house to start it, and also we wanted their help to investigate that, as well as they had a dog sniffer that would detect accelerant.
Dog sniffer, are you talking about a canine?
Yes.
Investigator Polk, so you noticed that there were cameras coming from what residence?
714, I believe it was.
714 Folds. Okay. And you saw someone, when you watched those cameras, coming from that residence.
Correct.
So you wanted the Ohio State Fire Marshal to come assist, fair?
That's fair.
Now, did you later learn that there was a video system on 719 Fultz?
Yes.
Were you able to view that video system that night?
No.
Okay. Do you know who the owner of 714 Fultz was?
I don't recall his first name, but I think his last name was Williams.
Okay. After you went to Mr. Williams' house and spoke with him, while you were speaking with him, without telling us what he said, did you talk to him?
Yes, I did.
Did you talk to him about the nature of the relationship between the defendant and the victim, in this case, Lindell Lewis? Without telling us what he said, did you talk to him about those things?
Yes.
Now, during the course of your investigation, did you speak with family members of Lindell Lewis?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us when you spoke with them?
A few days later, I was able to get to talk to different family members.
Did you know some of them personally?
Yes.
Did you know a Geraldine Lewis?
Yes.
And who is that?
That is Lindell's sister.
Was she at the scene of the fire that night?
She showed up a few hours after the fire.
Okay. Do you know the names of the other family members that you spoke of during the course of your investigation, not just that night?
Yes, I spoke with Willie Lewis, Greg Lewis, and Alfreda Lewis.
Okay. And did you speak with them about their knowledge of Mr. Lewis's relationship with the defendant? Without telling us exactly what they said, did you speak with them?
Yes, I did.
And Investigator Polk, would you agree with me that they knew varying degrees of knowledge about that relationship or what was going on? Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Investigator Polk, did you speak with, back to the night of April 18th of 2016, a lady by the name of Tiffany Gary?
Yes.
Okay. And who was she?
She was a bystander standing out when I was there investigating, filming it with her phone.
Okay. So she was out there. Did she show you that?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Now, Investigator Polk, after you spoke with these individuals, Mr. Costa, Mr. Williams, the family members, Tiffany Gary, who did you decide to speak with next?
I'm not sure who I spoke with next.
Okay.
It's in my report.
All right. Eventually, did you speak with the defendant in this case?
Not that night, no.
Okay. Not on April 18th of 2016.
Correct.
Did you speak with him eventually?
Yes, I did.
And when was that? Can you tell the jury when that was?
Approximately a week after I was able to speak with him.
Okay. And can you tell the jury, was that based on the conversations you had with all of these individuals?
Yes.
Do you know where the defendant lived?
Yes, he lived in the corner, I think it's 1370 Hillcrest, at the corner of Pulse and Hillcrest.
All right. Showing you State's Exhibit number 12. Can you see that, sir?
Yes.
All right. And with your green pointer, 1370 Hillcrest there at the corner of Hillcrest and Fields. Fair?
Correct.
When you went there, did you go there with anybody else?
No, I did not.
So you went there by yourself?
Yes.
Did you record your conversation with him?
No, I did not record it.
Okay. And where did you physically speak with him at?
I was at this side, his side door right. I think this is the front door, and the side door is like right there.
Prior to this encounter with him and speaking with him, had you met him before?
No, I had not.
Did you know him?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what it was that you spoke with him about and what he told you?
I was just asking about, did he have any knowledge to the fire or Lindell, what was going on with him and Lindell?
Okay, so you specifically asked him about what was going on between him and Lindell
Correct,
and what happened that night of the fire.
correct.
What did the defendant tell you?
Can't recall every word, but I believe it's in my report. I know one of them, he said that he was a vicious guy.
And when you're saying he said he was a vicious guy, can you just say the name so we know who you're referring to?
Yes, Stanley said that Lindell was a vicious guy, that he had people hanging out on the porch with him, making fun of people come by, verbally attacking him, and prostitutes, I think, was hanging out there.
Okay. And you said specifically that you documented his statement to you in your report,
That's correct.
and you don't remember every word that he's told you, but you documented it in your report?
Yes.
Would it help refresh your recollection as to what the defendant told you if you had a chance to see your report?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Mr. Polk, I'm showing you, is this your report here that I'm showing you?
Yes, it is.
All right, and I'm going to direct your attention to page 8. Can you please take a minute, read that to yourself. Let me know when you're finished, okay, sir?
So you do a walkthrough, you consult with the detectives on scene, and then you respond to what they ask for. Is that fair?
Correct.
All right. And your report investigation, I think you talked on your direct testimony, you indicated how you responded to the scene, that you met with Detective Ross, that you then went to 714 Fultz, spoke with Chester Williams, correct?
Correct.
And that you went about to download his security footage, correct?
Correct.
And you talked about the time discrepancies, correct?
Correct.
You transferred the video from the hard drive onto a USB, correct?
Correct.
So you made a copy of what was on the hard drive. You didn't take the hard drive, correct?
Correct.
And then back to the station, then you took that copy of the hard drive and you made another copy of that and put it onto the DVDs, correct?
Correct.
And those DVDs are now represented in State's Exhibit number 35 that you were shown previously, correct?
Correct.
So State's Exhibit 35 is a copy of the original, correct?
It's the original copy of the footage downloaded from that DVR.
The original footage is on the hard drive, correct?
Correct.
You made a copy of it to the flash drive, correct?
That's correct.
And then you made another copy of it onto the DVD, correct?
Correct.
And then the DVD, that's Exhibit 35, in addition to that, you made 3 more copies onto DVD, correct?
Probably 4
All right.
copies.
You said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, right?
Okay.
You said, I tagged one set of DVRs into EFP, and I'm assuming EFP is your evidence room?
It was our evidence suppository, yes, we would call it that.
And then you put one set in the CSU file, the crime scene unit file, correct?
The physical file, yes.
And then you said you also made copies for Detective Tanisha Stewart, correct?
Yes.
Akron Fire Arson Investigator Ellis Polk, correct? And the State Arson Investigator, correct?
Correct.
And then below that you said Detective Dorsey, who was your partner at the time, correct?
Correct.
Took photos of the DVR system along with crime scene photos, correct?
Correct.
All right. You agree you did not make a copy or take the external or the internal hard drive of the DVR unit, correct?
Correct.
That wasn't Akron Police Crime Scene Unit's protocol at that point in time, correct?
That's correct.
Today, that is the protocol. It's a better way to secure the evidence is to actually secure the hard drive of the DVR, correct?
At some times, not all the time is that done.
Okay. But that wasn't done in this case by you, correct?
Correct.
In addition to the photos that Detective Dorsey took, am I fair in assuming that that is the complete job, that's everything that the crime scene unit conducted and did on April 18th, 2016?
I'm sorry, repeat what you said.
That's the sum and substance of what you did. You didn't do anything in addition to what we've already talked about. You took photos, you made a copy of the hard drive, and then you copied that copy onto other DVDs, correct?
Detective Dorsey also collected a DVR from from 719.
From the house that had been on fire?
Correct.
Okay. That is the sum and substance of what the crime scene unit did, correct?
And I assisted with a canvas with Detective Stewart.
And you talked about that on your direct examination, but there's no paperwork whatsoever about you conducting a canvas, is there?
I would have thought she put it in her paperwork, but I'm not certain. I haven't read it.
And you would agree with me that in your paperwork, there's no mention of anything that you did at 730 Fultz, correct?
I believe. You have a copy of my paperwork?
I do.
It's not on my paperwork, but I believe it is on Detective Dorsey's paperwork.
So I'm accurate when I say that there's nothing in your paperwork about 730 Fultz, correct?
Correct, because it's in Detective Dorsey's paperwork.
And 730 Fultz, so we all recall, is the pink house that is behind 1370 Hillcrest and across the street from 719 Fultz, correct?
Correct.
And you have testified in a prior proceeding, correct?
Correct.
And you remember we talked about 730 Fultz at that point in time, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember me asking you, as it relates to 730 Fultz, I say, when we talk about 730 Fultz, did you make any attempt to look at the DVR unit at 730 Fultz? And you answered no, correct?
Correct.
You remember that, right?
I do.
And then after that, I said, did you make any attempt to determine when those units were unplugged? And you said no, correct?
Correct.
And that is true, correct?
That's true.
And really quickly, Detective Hall, we talked about taking the whole hard drive, and you said on some occasions it's appropriate, it's better, right?
On some occasions, it's appropriate.
And it could give you a greater time frame upon which to look, see what was recorded, correct?
It would give you everything that was on the hard drive.
Not just the 1 hour that you were directed by Sergeant Ross to pull back, correct?
It would give you everything that's on the hard drive.
Not just that 1 hour that Sergeant Ross asked you to collect, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Detective Hall, in your portion of the investigation, were you able to learn whether that DVR system at 730 volts was even functional?
It was unplugged, so
Okay.
it was not operating at the time.
So you don't know if it was working inside of the house or not, but it was
I do.
unplugged at that point.
That's correct, I did not.
And you don't know when that was unplugged, one way or the other?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
All right, you may step down, thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our testimony for today. Remember the admonition I've previously given you concerning your conduct. It's important for you to be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss a case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. This includes your family, friends, and the media. You must not post or read anything about this case on the internet or any electronic device, including your cell phones. Any such discussion, if discovered, could lead to a mistrial and severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, and do not form or express an opinion until the case has finally been submitted to you. We will resume tomorrow morning with a full day of testimony, starting at 9 a.m. So we'll see you in the morning. Thank you. And look, it stopped raining and the sun's out.
All right, please.
Oh. Yes, it does.
Alrighty.
I think we wanted to talk about Chester Williams.
Sure.